Not
When we
because I
first
had
saw
to,
this
but because
place,
I
we
wanted to
knew
see
it
just
was
how
perfect.
ridiculous they were
The
willing to
view
become.
alone sold us.
The room
But the
was packed with
community
board
here
members.
is incredible.
Linda stood at the front like she was leading a tribunal. Todd, her vice president, clutched his precious clipboard. Michelle, the treasurer, had a folder labeled Legal Actions. They all stared at me like I was some kind of criminal about to be judged. Mr. Dalton, Linda began, this board has found you guilty of unauthorized land alteration. Guilty? I asked. Did a judge say that? We don't need a judge. We have bylaws. Todd then activated a slideshow, 33 photos of absolutely nothing, a rock, a patch of soil, someone's shoe, maybe even a squirrel. He delivered it like he was presenting evidence in a murder trial. Michelle dropped a stack of papers in front of me, announcing my fines and threatening liens if I didn't pay. The entire room fell silent, waiting for me to panic or beg. Instead, I pulled out a thick binder, set it calmly on the table, and flipped it open. This, I said, is the truth. Their eyes focused instantly. Inside was the complete state-certified boundary survey of my property. Clear markers, precise coordinates, decade-old photos, the official stamp, signatures, all of it logged with the county, all of it verified, all of it impossible to challenge. Then I revealed soil reports, historical maps, rainfall analysis, real evidence that contradicted every word they had thrown at me. Linda swallowed hard. Todd froze mid-breath. Michelle blinked like her programming malfunctioned. I delivered the final blow with a steady voice. I already spoke with the county inspector. He verified everything. He also recommended I file a claim against the HOA for abusive enforcement if this harassment continues. The entire board deflated on the spot. The next morning brought something even better than victory, revenge. The county inspector arrived, but not for me. He was there for them. Someone, definitely not me, had reported the HOA for falsifying property claims, attempting to enforce rules outside their jurisdiction, and interfering with land that wasn't theirs. Under county law, those are serious violations. He walked the slope, took photos, checked every marker, and finally told the board exactly what they never expected to hear. This property does not belong to your HOA. You have no authority here. These accusations have no legal basis. Linda nearly crumpled. Todd dropped his clipboard. Michelle kept trying to argue until the inspector cut her off, warning that any further pursuit would result in a formal case against the HOA. By the end of the week, the HOA received an official warning, a compliance violation, and a mandatory training order on boundary law, and the county billed them for wasting government time. I've lived on the same quiet piece of land for almost 15 years, tucked right against a gentle hillside that slopes down toward a neighboring subdivision, the one run by an HOA that everyone in the county seems to have a story about. For most of my time there, we never crossed paths. I stayed on my property, they stayed on theirs, and life remained pleasantly simple. Until the mudslide. It happened one spring after weeks of heavy rain. The slope between my property and theirs finally gave way, and a sheet of wet soil slid downward toward a row of HOA homes. Nothing was destroyed, but the drainage line clogged and a little pool formed in someone's yard. I wasn't even home when it happened, yet by that evening the HOA had already decided I was the villain of the neighborhood. They delivered a letter, bold print, formal tone, accusing me of unauthorized land grading that directly caused hazardous runoff conditions. They billed me $14,700 for remediation and emergency landscaping. At first, I laughed. I hadn't touched that hillside in years. Nature did what nature does, but that amusement faded the moment they started escalating with surprising speed. The HOA president, Linda, showed up at my gate waving the fine letter like she was holding courtroom evidence. She was furious, claiming I had illegally altered the slope, and when I calmly asked her if she had any proof, she proudly replied, "We don't need evidence. We have authority." That was the moment I realized this had nothing to do with soil or water or runoff. It was about control. And they assumed I was an easy target. They were wrong. From that day on, the harassment became a routine performance. Daily emails, warning letters taped to my fence, HOA board members standing at the slope with tape measures as if they were surveying a crime scene. When I asked again for real evidence, they sent a single blurry cell phone photo of dirt not even on my property. It would have been funny if it hadn't been so absurd. At that point, I stopped reacting. I stopped explaining. I stopped treating them like rational adults. Because they didn't know something that was going to end this entire ordeal as soon as I let it see the light of day. A nuclear option, one that had been sitting quietly in my files for nearly 10 years. My dad, before he passed, spent his life as a surveyor, one of the best. When I inherited this land, he told me to protect the boundaries, because one day someone would try to claim what wasn't theirs. Following his advice, a decade earlier I'd had a full, state-certified boundary survey done. Concrete markers, metal pins, official stamps, GPS coordinates, all logged with the county. Unshakable, indisputable, airtight. The HOA had no idea this existed. But I did. And I knew exactly how powerful it was. Eventually, the HOA sent me a certified letter demanding I appear at a mandatory hearing. They wanted seriousness. Fine. I showed up. When I walked the slope afterward, the markers were still exactly where my dad had placed them, perfect, unmoved, absolute. I realized then that the entire battle had unfolded because the HOA believed authority mattered more than facts. They thought intimidation was stronger than documentation. They thought they could bully me into paying for something nature had caused. But the truth won. The survey won. And my dad's wisdom won. I didn't just protect my land, I protected his legacy. And the best part? These days, the HOA doesn't bother me at all. They don't tape anything to my fence, they don't send emails. They barely look in my direction. Because the moment someone finally stands their ground, the whole illusion of power collapses. So if you ever face bogus accusations or a power-hungry board trying to push you around, remember this story. A single sheet of paper, official, factual, and legally binding, can bring an entire HOA to its knees. And the one thing they fear most is someone who actually knows their boundaries.